We're almost at midway point. I was just thinking, I've probably competed for about 15 years as a swimmer. Really enjoyed that journey. And then I've been coaching for some time now, 20 years or more. And these last 2 days, being a listener, hearing the 4 coaches speak on the 4 strokes and the 5 on the starts and turns, I learn so much and I get so many good ideas. And I hope each of you, when you keep hearing something about something new, or even if it's something of old, and a lot of these things that I've heard before, but I was like, I need to work more on this. So it's all about journeying and learning every day. So I was so thrilled to be part of it. A few things I want to touch base with. There was a question yesterday. I like the way Coach Imran spoke about the underwater push-off, and he said initially push-off and you get this perfect streamline and you get this whale kick. Now, probably people haven't heard that word, whale kick. And then he says move into a dolphin kick and then into the flutter kick, which is the freestyle or the backstroke kick. So what he meant was, obviously a whale has a bigger kick, bigger movement, bigger range of movement, into a dolphin who is faster. So what we think is it's always good to start with the bigger kick, not to get this massive kick, but a bigger kick and then try to increase some speed into the kick. Now, does this work or not? It's worth experimenting. Each swimmer, like it was always emphasized, go back, work with your coach and see which kick is better. And always when you try something for the first time, remember something new. You change your recovery, you change your arm entry, you change the timing of your breathing. It might not feel anything new, you might not feel good. When you get a brand new car, you feel good, it's faster. In swimming, when you add something new to your stroke, it can even slow you down at the start. So be patient. Give everything a chance. If it doesn't work, you can always go back to your old stroke. So the whale kick is to get a bigger kick at the start and then move into a faster dolphin kick. Everybody should have at least, depending on the speed you're racing or training, have a certain amount of dolphin kicks that you want to do all the time. When you swim, please don't take the wall as a recovery time to do a turn. Here's a small example I'm going to give you. A basketball player who dribbles the ball and comes in to where he can shoot. And then when he shoots, he doesn't think about the dribbling anymore. It's a new thinking. It's a shoot. I need to throw this ball into the loop. A cricketer, a bowler, for example, running in, excellent. You need that run in. Soon as you come into the arm action, you got to switch off from the run and switch off and turn onto the bowling action. Same thing you need to do in your swimming. When you come to the wall, switch off, but don't switch off your brain. Start thinking of a new skill. Swimming is one skill, turn is another. It's not a time to relax. So maybe that's something you all can always practice a lot. Yesterday, the breaststroke and butterfly both have what you call the short axis stroke, we call it. It's a new name. What it means is that both have a dolphin movement. So don't forget, not just your butterfly, but the breaststroke needs a little bit of a dolphin movement. Again, stroke count is also another important thing for breaststroke, butterfly, and freestyle. I think when you swim backstroke, stroke counts are not the most. You don't need a stroke count, I think. It's something you need to discuss with the coach, because you don't have to glide, you don't reach. You need to enter. Remember, the coaches talked about shoulder turn, but stroke counting is a must. And I think all swimmers, when you go back in the pool, we are not going to be the fittest. I know a lot of you all are exercising, but when you get in the pool again, fitness can be a bit down. Don't try to race on the first day. For a while, start swimming at a moderate speed. And during this time, it is important that you put your strokes and your turns into good practice. Don't wait for the meet to come by. You're 1 week away from the meet. You started your taper. and now start thinking about your start. Now you start thinking about your turns. Don't. Practice all this and make a good habit out of it at the beginning of the season. Fantastic stuff. Today, yesterday, and the first 2 days, I guess it was all about in the water. Today, it's going to be another brand new story. I'm so looking forward to it. So thank you again, Coach Kasun, and over to you.
Thank you, Julian, sir, for those wonderful words. Now we have a small surprise today. So basically, after the session, after the lecture by Shane Silva, and then we have the Q&A, and then we will be asking a question from what Shane sir talks about, and we will choose 3 winners. And courtesy Glory Swim Shop, we will be choosing 3 winners and handing over a few goodies. So stay tuned, listen to what sir is talking about. And also when it comes to the chat box, what I would advise is the chat box will be open after 7:30 p.m. So there aren't any unnecessary discussions going on. So you can, after 7:30, you can, if there are any questions on to what Sir Shane is doing, you can actually include that. So in the time being, you can type the question and keep it, and after 7:30 you can put it in the chat box. Right, now we will move on to Shane sir. So I will give a small introduction regarding the man of many talents. Right, so today we have the multi-talented Shane Silva presenting on strength and conditioning. Currently, Shane is the fitness coach of the Visakha Vidyalaya water polo team and Moratuwa University and Bishop College rowing teams. He also is a news anchor and a lawyer by profession. He has participated in many international races as a runner and is a triathlete. Yes, he's a man of many skills. Shane, the stage is yours. I will add Shane now. Yes, Shane.
Thank you, Kasun. Hi, everyone. It's a real pleasure. It's a real honor to be part of this group, to be part of the presenters. Thank you very much, Julian. Thank you very much, Anita, Kasun, Sachil, and the organizers for extending the opportunity to me. Just a couple of things before we actually start. Just a couple of things that I want to kind of touch on. Today's session is going to be on strength and conditioning. So, what actually is strength is probably a question that some of you may have. So, strength basically is the capacity to kind of withstand any pressure, any force that you are kind of faced with. And given the pressure, given the density, which is 700 times more than the density of air that you're dealing with, which is basically water, it's only natural that you kind of be as strong and have as much strength as you possibly can in order to reach your optimum, in order to reach your full potential. Right, so in that kind of context, what actually is strength training? Now, primarily strength training involves a lot of weights, it involves different types of exercises, different types of sheds, different sizes.
Excuse me, Shane. Your line, your voice not that clear.
Okay.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Is it clear now?
Yes, much clear. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. So, sorry, no worries. So yeah, as I was saying, strength training involves different weight regimes, different weight schedules, different workouts, and all of that. But given the situation, given the circumstances that we are in right now, it's difficult to access a gym. It's difficult to carry out those routine workouts that you were so used to. It's a different playing field, so to speak. So in this backdrop, what I'm trying to put across and bring across to all of you all
is to kind of look back, take a step back and look at the technique. I believe Julian sir kind of touched on the importance of technique in the first session that we did. I think he brought out the example of Michael Phelps and Ian Thorpe. And in that same breath, in that same kind of mindset, it is important that technique also is followed to its maximum when you're doing ground training, when you're doing land training as well. So just a couple of things, back office stuff before we get into the session per se. Strength, yes, it is very important, but as equally important is the back office work, which primarily consists of hydration, nutrition, rest, and relaxation as well. Because as much as you're pushing yourself, as much as you're reaching your optimum in terms of your strength, you also need to get proper nutrition, proper sleep, proper rest, as well as proper hydration. Because if not, what you're going to do is you're going to put your body under a lot of stress, because on the one side you're pushing yourself, you're getting into these strength workouts, you're reaching your full potential, but then on the other side you're not really giving your body time to rest, time to recover, and time to recoup and rebuild itself after the sessions. So in that type of a backdrop, let's move on to the session. The session today is primarily, we're going to shift gears a bit. We're not going to have any slides at all. It'll primarily be myself demonstrating and showing to you exactly, the type of technique that I kind of look at when I'm coaching a team and I'm involved with the team. So pardon me, this is very much a new experience to me. It is not a person seated in front of a TV, a camera, and presenting news. It's very much a more dynamic, a more active kind of a presentation. So excuse me in advance if there are any shortcomings. And yeah, let's get this show on the road. Kaswan, you're going to be my eyes and ears on this. So looking out for timings from you. I'm sure there's nothing new being a coach, taking someone's times. So I'm going to ask you for 10 minutes now to just run through the warm-up. Are we good, Kaswan?
Yeah, we are good to go.
All right. Okay. Let me just increase the volume just so that I can hear you. Okay. So, Kaswan, if I'm at any point out of the frame, just give me a shout.
Yeah.
And
sure.
yeah, let's start. Okay. So, given that everyone's a swimmer in this platform, I'm kind of looking at incorporating a few exercises into your dynamic warm-up, which will primarily be Tbc rotations, Tbc dislocators, and a couple of Tbc drills. After that, which will primarily be for your rotator cuffs. After that, we're kind of looking at some exercises for your hips as well, because you generally, as swimmers, you use your hips, you use your legs a lot, as well as your shoulders. So from that, we will go into the exercises that I would like to take you all through, which is primarily the squat, the lunge, the push-up, and the plank. Now, in my point of view, these 4 exercises, if you don't really get the basics right, the variations like the jump squats, the wide arm push-ups, the powered push-ups that you do, the split lunges, all of that, the technique can go a bit vary if you don't really get your fundamentals in place. All right, that's it. Let's go into the warm-up. So, Tbc rotations primarily, I'm going to switch off my fan. Don't want to really hit my hand. So, Tbc rotations basically is you get a PVC pipe about the length of about 6 feet in length, which primarily you should be able to extend your elbow without a problem, and you keep it on your pelvic bone here, and then you just rotate in this way. We are basically standing straight. We are basically keeping our chest up. We are keeping our legs firmly on the ground. We are not jerking. this movement, we are only using our rotator cuff to move the PVC pipe in front and then move it back. We do a couple of exercises like that. Then we go into something called PVC dislocators, which is basically like this. Again, feet firmly on the ground. You're working your rotator cuff. Your core is strong. Your shoulders, hips, and knees are in one line. We'll get back to that. Something which I call full extension. And then we go into some overhead PVC squats. Hands directly above your shoulders. Go down, hips below the knees, and then you come up. Chest up. Up again. And then we keep the PVC pipe on our shoulders and we hinge down and up. Looking in front, we don't want to arch our back like this. We want to keep it nice and straight. Focusing on those hamstrings, nicely extending those hamstrings, getting your glutes also activated. And up we go. Now, I understand that given the situation, most of you all may not have access to a PVC pipe. Most of you all may not have a PVC pipe that long. So an option that you can actually do is you can take a broom and you can actually do the same exercises. Of course, if you're feeling a bit queasy about using the end of the broom, you can keep it out there and then you can use it like this. Of course, keep in mind to fix the broom back once you're done with it, because you really don't want the rest of your household being upset with you on something like that. Right, okay, so the PVC rotations, the PVC dislocators, and the overhead PVC squats, and the PVC good mornings, basically they function, they focus a lot on your rotator cuff. Additionally, we will look at doing something which I call the YTWM exercise. So here we hinge from our hip. We're not hunching, we hinge from our hip. And we extend our hands out, which is the Y position. Then we get into the T position, W, and M. Up again. And then we go on like that. Now what we're doing here is, again, we're working on the rotator cuff. We're working on strengthening the rotator cuff, giving it that mobility, giving it that strength as well. So in order to actually implement it or get into the exercise better, keep your elbows up. Don't let your elbows drop. Keep your elbows up. Make sure that they are out there when you are reaching out. Make sure that your hands are out there. Tighten your core at all points, given that you all are swimmers, given that you're working a lot with your core. Always good to have your core tense, tight and working. Also at the same time, move on to some hip mobility drills. So hands out there, again you're tightening your core. You're not really moving side to the side. You keep yourself firmly on the ground, and then you do this. You're playing a game of cricket. The ball goes into the neighbor's house. You're jumping into the neighbor's house over the wall to get the ball. This is how you jump over the wall. One leg over, the other leg over. You get the ball, you're climbing out, you repeat the process, hands up, same kind of technique. Right? At the same time, you don't want to be moving around like that. You want to keep your core tight. You want to keep your core strong. It's only your legs that you will be moving. Okay. At the same time, you can also look at some other drills to basically mobilize your feet. Lying on the ground. Bring your legs up to 90 degrees. Feel your spine completely on the ground. And then go out. One way. And then you can repeat it or reverse it the other way. Same thing. So this again actually mobilizes your leg joints. It mobilizes your muscles that are connected to your body from the leg. And it also probably also kind of activates those legs activates those muscles to give you that warm-up that you want. Having done that, something that I actually advocate a lot the teams that I coach is skipping. Now, given the restrictions that we have, you can't really move out, you can't really go for a run sometimes. Skipping is actually one of the best forms of cardio. And I've been told that it actually burns about the same amount of calories, if done properly, that you would probably get on a decent run. Now, just a couple of things when you're doing your skips. Make sure that your skipping rope is actually quite long. I've been told by my coaches that the skipping rope should actually be about up to my chest. And then also at the same time, make sure that when you're skipping, that your elbows are tucked into your shoulder, into your body, and you're flicking that wrist. So that basically you're not going out there, which means that then you're getting less rope, you're getting less clearance. Tuck your elbows into your body and flick. And I'm sure that flick will also strengthen your wrists, and it will also probably also provide help you out with the stroke as well. Right. Now, having done the warm-up side of it, let's go into the four main exercises that I touched on earlier, which is the squat, the lunge, the push-up, and the plank. Kasun, are we good on time so far?
Yeah, we are at 7.5.
Okay, 7.5, right, okay. So we are going to move on to the squat now, Kasun. If I can probably have about 5 minutes. If you can start the clock, please.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So guys, primarily the squat comprises of, this is the starting position. And before we actually start on that, I'd like to just share with you all something that all exercises, in my point of view, they have 3 points. They have the start, they have the midpoint, and they have the finish. Unless, of course, it's a static exercise like a plank or something. Usually something like the squat, the push-up, the lunge, there is a starting point, there is a midpoint, and then there's a finish. Usually the start and the finish is usually the same point. So even in the squat, the start is standing up here. You want to be fully upright. What I would generally call, and what I've been told, and what I've been taught is it's called the full extension. And I will be touching on the full extension also a fair bit in the other exercises as well. So the full extension is where your shoulders, your hips, and your knees are all in one line. And that is basically where your body is at its almost at its optimum length. So your core also at the same time is engaged. You're not doing this where your glutes are sticking out, but your spine is very much towards the ground. So your shoulders are up, your shoulders are back, your chest is up, your shoulders, hips, and knees are in one line, and that will be the starting point for the squat as well. So the squat is usually something like this: standing straight, go down, and then you come up. Now, sometimes I've seen a lot of the athletes, some of the athletes like I coach rather, they are not able to go down on their heels. Now, technically, the squat is very much an exercise that focuses a lot on power, and that power is generated by pressing down with your heels into the ground. The squat primarily works the hamstrings, the quads, your IT band, your glutes, and if you do it properly, your core as well. So, in order to get the maximum benefit of the squat, ideally you should keep your feet at hip distance, feet slightly pointing out so that you can maximize on your heels, on pressing down with your heels, and then you move down, pushing your hips back. You don't want to have a situation where your knees are going beyond your toes. So you're pushing with your hips back, and then you come below your knees, your hips come below your knees, and you're seated there. Now at this point, your glutes are active, your hamstring is active, your quads are active. and your chest is up. What you don't want to do is be this, which is basically what in general terminology is called the butt wing. Now the butt wing is basically where your knees are, sorry, your back is collapsed, your glutes are not activated, your hamstring is not activated, your quads are not activated. So yes, as much as it's good, or as much as it won't be noticed, when you're doing a body weight exercise, the moment you do a back squat, and the moment you go down and you hit the butt wing, you're going to struggle because you have a weight on your shoulders, and your quads are not engaged, your glutes are not engaged. You're basically stuck down there. So it's going to be that much more difficult to kind of power up and then come up. So as a first step, if you are not very comfortable with your, sorry,
we had 4 minutes.
4 minutes, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to probably take a few more minutes, Pasun. Maybe let's go in for another 3 additional minutes so that we make it 8.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So one thing that you can do is you can get into this deep squat position where your knees are below your hips, your chest is up, and you're focusing on keeping your knees pointing out so that you're maximizing on your hamstrings, you're maximizing on your glute strength. Now, if you're not able to do that, it's perfectly fine to fall back because you need to find that midpoint where your core is active, where your glutes are active, where your hamstring, your quads, basically your entire body is active. So it doesn't matter. I mean, you can probably fall over a couple of times, but make sure that your heels are firmly on the ground, and your knees are pointing out so that you're powering up your hamstrings, you're powering up your glutes. All right. So a couple of exercises that we can do to actually mobilize the hips are exercises like this. Where you stand, you're hinging from your hips, you're not punching down, you hinge down onto your hips, touch your toes, and then come up again. When you're coming up, it's almost like you're doing a deadlift, but you're hinging up like this. So a couple more exercises like that. One hand up, other hand up, then you power up, digging your feet, digging your heels firmly into the ground. Also, another exercise that I found to make sure that your knees do not collapse is to put a stretch band just above your knees and then to get into the deep squat position. So you're in this position, your knees are pointing out, and you're focusing on getting your knees out there with the resistance that you're given, that the stretch band is giving you. Also, if you want to jazz things up, you can take a weight. In this case, I wasn't able to get a medicine ball or some weights in time, so I'm going to rely on a good old water gallon. Squat and up. Couple of variations to that can be your goblet squat and up. So, if done right, you should feel your glutes, you should feel your hamstrings, you should feel your quads, basically getting fired up, getting activated, and the next morning also you'll have that comfortable, uncomfortable feeling. Pasun, how are you on time?
We are at 7.5 now.
Okay, right. So guys, in a nutshell, that's basically the squat. That's basically an introduction to some squat technique. I'm now going to go into the lunge. So the lunge again is something that activates your quads, it activates your hamstrings, your IT band, your glutes, as well as your core. So generally the lunge, if done properly, is where you take a nice step in front. Make sure that your front leg Your knee is directly 90 degrees above your ankle. You want to have your back foot also pointing in the same direction as your front foot. And then you lower yourself down, and then you come up. Then one thing that you need to do is make sure that your knee does not go in front. So basically, when you're doing the lunge, it should not be something like this. It should be basically where you're lowering yourself down, and then you come up. All the while looking in front, keeping your chest up, keeping your shoulders back, and keeping your core engaged. Now, just to detract a bit on making sure that you activate your core, one thing that I keep telling the teams that I coach is if they're wearing a t-shirt, and I'm sure you guys also will be, if you are wearing a school t-shirt, some t-shirt that you got from the athletics meet or some swimming meet or something, you'll always have your the school crest up here. So one thing that you can do to make sure that your core is engaged, to make sure that you're basically engaging your core, your shoulders are back, is to kind of make sure that your college crest does not go down. So basically that you're not hunching, that you're basically upright, and that you're showing the world your college crest, who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing. So that is one way to kind of engage the core, one way to kind of make sure that you're activating your core, you're keeping your shoulders back, your chest up, as well as you're opening up your lungs. Because as you're working out, your body needs oxygen, your body needs to get rid of the carbon dioxide, take in new oxygen, and that is not going to help if you're in a hunch collapse position. So your lungs need to be open, your lungs need to be fully expanded. And one way of doing this is actually by just, thinking about the college crest, thinking about your school, thinking about the institution that you represent, and making sure that that crest, stays up there and for the world to see. All right? Okay. So getting back to the lunge. So the lunge basically is like this. Go down, you touch the ground, and then you come up. We don't want to have this position where you're lunging down, you're hitting your knee on the ground, because at the end of the day, you're working out, you're not really wanting to damage your knee. All right? So that is what the lunge is all about. You can also make sure that your back leg and your front leg are in one line. Your core is engaged, shoulders back. All right? Kasun, how are we on time?
3 1/4, 3 minutes and 15-20 seconds.
Okay. So that in a nutshell was the lunge. We'll now move on to the push-up. So the push-up is basically something like this. All right. So I understand that sometimes it's very rarely that I have seen athletes, going right down, hitting the ground, touching the ground rather, and then coming up. Okay. So if done properly, the push-up builds up your upper body, builds up your chest, and it also gives you a lot of strength in these areas, in your shoulders, in your back, in your chest as well, which you probably need for swimming a fair bit. So if you're not strong in your push-up, if you are finding it difficult to do this, then there are some drills. First one is something that I've introduced to the teams I coach. So I've broken the push-up into 3 stages. I call them stage 3 push-ups, stage 2 push-ups, and stage 1 push-ups. So stage 3 push-ups is where your hips on the ground, and this is all that you need to do in terms of your push-up. Stage 2 push-ups are where your knees on the ground, your core is engaged, your hands are directly under your shoulders, and then you go down and come up. Now here what is important is that you're focusing on your core, you're focusing on the technique, but you're also not putting too much of pressure by getting into that full push-up position. And then, of course, you have the standard push-up, which is this. So in the plank position, go down, and then come up. Now, when you're doing the push-up, one thing that you need to keep in mind is that your elbows have to move along your body. Or basically, they should be brushing alongside your body. Because primarily in the push-up, you're working your triceps as well. So you don't want to have your hands flaring out like that, because that does not achieve anything in the process. In fact, I think you're actually at risk of injuring yourself if you don't, if you continue doing that push-up the way it is. So, a couple of drills apart from the stage 3, stage 2, and stage 1 push-ups is that you can also activate your shoulders by getting into the cat-cow position and then moving down and moving up. So all the time, the rest of your body is very static, but you're getting that movement of the push-up, activating your rotator cuff, and getting comfortable with that position. So that then when it actually comes into, when you actually start doing push-ups, through this strengthening of the various muscle groups, you're able to execute the push-up that much better. So
3.5.
those are, I'm sorry, Tasman?
We are at 3.5 minutes.
3.5, okay.
Yeah.
So a couple more exercises that we can do is we get into the child pose, which is right down here, and then we move up, folding our hands, keeping our keeping our hips off the ground, but trying to touch the ground with our chin and chest. So it will be something like this. So this movement also focuses on strengthening your chest, strengthening that movement for the push-up. Now, as you progress with the push-up, once you've done stage 3, stage 2, stage 1, and once you've done all these strengthening exercises, you could also do hand release push-ups, which actually makes sure that you hit the ground. So a hand release push-up is something like this. You go down, you release your hands, and then you push up, thereby ensuring that you actually go down, you hit the ground, and then you have to push up. So a couple of exercises, couple of drills, couple of strength training techniques on the push-up, which I hope you guys will benefit from. So the last exercise that I wanted to touch on is the plank. So the plank is something like this: hands directly under your shoulders, arms directly under your shoulders. Your core is engaged, and you're also in that full extension position where your shoulders, hips, and knees are in one line. Now, the plank, I've seen lots of people doing variations of the plank. I've seen the Knuckles Mountain Range, I've seen Adam's Peak, I've seen different types of, I've seen branches, I've seen a lot of variations of the plank. But ideally, when you're doing plank, your core should be on fire. You should feel the tension in your core, because if not, you're going to be injuring yourself. So if you're not, and one thing that you need to focus on, even with the push-up, is keeping your hands, keeping your palms directly under your shoulders, because if not, you're going to get into a hyperextension situation, which you don't really want to do, because that's going to cause, that's going to lead or the risk of injury is that much more. Sometimes I've seen athletes doing this in terms of their push-ups. Yes, that is a variation of the push-up. That is an advanced variation. That is an advanced variation of the plank. You don't really need to go there unless you're really advanced, an advanced athlete who is comfortable in doing this in the first instance. So if you want to develop your plan, if you want to improve your plan, one way of doing that is again keeping your knees on the ground, keeping your hands here, and just getting comfortable with this position. You can also give it a bit of variation by doing this. Again, elbows directly under your shoulders. At all points, guys, when you're doing the push-up, when you're doing planks, just make sure that your palms are directly under your shoulders. Your palms are spread out so that the pressure, the pressure that you're applying to the ground is spread out as well. You don't want to be doing this, or you don't want to be, putting too much pressure on the side of your palm or the inside of your palm. In the same way that when you're doing the squats, you don't want to have your knees going in and thereby putting pressure on the inside of your feet. You want to keep it firmly on the ground, and also you want to be pushing directly with your heels, especially with the squats. So that's primarily the technique work that I just wanted to touch on in terms of those 4 exercises. Like I said, the 3 points, the start, the midpoint, and the finish of each exercise is crucial, but how well you do it depends on the technique, depends on how much technique work you've done, and how comfortable you are in doing that exercise. So having said all that, we'll now move on to some stretch bands. I'm told that stretch band exercises are the best form of land training exercises for a swimmer. Wholeheartedly agree with that. So stretch bands, you can probably start. You can now, as I've done, I've got them on my toe handle. Again, this is where the hip hinge comes into play, because you don't want to be doing your exercises like that. You want to hinge from your hip properly, keeping your chest up, keeping your core engaged, and also so that then when you pull, you're pulling with your shoulders. You're not really trying to compensate with your back, the other muscle groups in your back, but you're actually using your direct shoulder, your shoulders, and the muscles directly behind it. So some of the exercises that you can do, some of the stretch band exercises that you can do are the pulls, double arm pull, and then you have the single arm pull, and then you have the chest pull, which is this way, and then you have the chest push as well. So those are those are just a few exercises that we've been doing for swimming and also as part of the land training. And also, I think when we go look at things like the core and working the core, I think the Rainbow Academy, the NCDC swimmers, and Kanita Kasun, I'm sure you all will agree. There is a medicine ball drill, there's a medicine ball set that all swimmers do. That is an amazing set that you can follow. So you can, I'm sure the Rainbow Academy will be more than happy to share those sessions, share those drills with all the swimmers here. That is a perfect, that is a really good set that you can follow in terms of your core. If you also want to variate your plan, you can start, you can move onto the Swiss ball, where you keep your feet on the Swiss ball, and then you're in that extended elbow position. If you don't have a Swiss ball, that's fine. You can keep your feet on the edge of your bed, and I'm sure you'll probably get the same effect as well. Also, one more thing that Kanita, since I'm a squad member of his swim squad, one thing that Kanita has told us is also about kicking, where you keep your feet on the Swiss ball, and you're in the plank position, and then you start kicking. You start a very fast kick, which activates your core, which activates your hip flexors, and I'm sure in these circumstances, it would probably be the next best thing to doing a kick set in the pool. So there you go, 7:45. More or less done with my side of things. Just one thing that I wanted to add for everyone's kind of knowledge is that yes, as much as this is a strength session, it's a physical strength session. Use this time, guys, to kind of strengthen other aspects of your life as well. I think Julian mentioned, in the first session that some swimmers had said that they would like to see their grandparents at the meets. So strengthen that bond that you have, with your family, with your friends, with your loved ones. Stay away from the phone as much as you can. I probably won't be popular for this, but try and strengthen those aspects of your life as well. Because at the end of the day, when you get back to the pool, when you start training again, it's going to be a rat race. You're not really going to be having time for people the way you would have right now. So strengthen those ties, strengthen those connections. May be a better or be a more holistic athlete during this time, so that when you come back to the pool, when you start your training again, you'll be starting off on a better footing. So that's it for now. Fasun, over to you.
Thank you, Shane, for the wonderful presentation. Before we move on to the Q&A session, I would like to remind everyone that after the Q&A session, we will be asking one question from what Shane sir presented today, and we will be choosing 3 winners, and the 3 winners will be getting gifts from Glory Swim Shop, right? So that is coming up right after the Q&A session, so I would advise everyone to hang on. Right, now I will just unmute our sort of coaches to join in the session, the Q&A session. Julian sir, I think I have unmuted you. You can come on video as well.
I'm back.
One sec.
Hi, Julian.
Shane, awesome job, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you.
I see these young boys and girls now wanting to get really, really, really fit. They are fit, but they want to get fitter.
I just want to add, guys, that we are all one community. I'm more than happy to, come in on a Zoom session, share what I can with everyone. At the end of the day, we're all one family. So just putting it out there, guys. I'm sure all the coaches and we're all in this together. So whatever way I can, guys, more than happy to help out.
Right, Shane. Thank you. Shane, we'll move on to some of the questions. So, I have unmuted few speakers as well. If they want, they can join in. So this is regarding push-ups, right? When you're doing push-ups, your shoulders start hurting and burning. Should you push and continue on your set, or consider that?
Okay, guys, from my knowledge and from my experience, you need to understand, the type of pain that you're dealing with, right? There is the pain of your muscles being activated and, your muscles working. And then, of course, there is a sharp stabbing pain of something not being right. Okay, so if it is that you are having pain in your shoulders when you're doing your push-ups, that doesn't really sound right to me. To the rest of the panelists also, I don't really think I don't really think even you guys would agree with me that sounds right, because there seems to be something wrong there in the technique.
Julius, you have anything to say?
Shehan?
Okay, so let's move on to the next question. How many of these exercises would an average person do per day?
Okay. There again, it depends on who the person is. If you're a 10-year-old who is just starting out to do push-ups, then probably 10 push-ups into 3 sets is probably fine. If you're an elite athlete, then yes, maybe you might want to push yourself a bit more. So it's very subjective. It's a very subjective thing. It would largely depend on the coach and your level of strength and the amount that you can really push yourself, or you want to push yourself.
Right. Sir, do we have to look forward when we do the push-up?
Yes.
Right. Is there any particular reason? Would you want to elaborate on that?
There are, Kasun. So primarily, as
Maybe you can demonstrate that again so that the young kids will understand what this look forward.
okay.
Shane, if you got any more energy in you.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, guys, so looking forward is basically like this. You're in a comfortable position. You're not dropping your head because that in itself can put a bit of strain on your neck. You're looking forward. You're in a very comfortable position. You drop your chest down, and then you come up. Always looking in front, guys, because try and keep your spine as lengthwise as much as possible, because you don't want to really damage your spine. You don't really want to cause any unnecessary injury there.
Thank you, Shane. Right. Then we have, is it normal that when you're doing a push-up, at times your wrists and arm muscles start hurting?
Okay, I'm thinking the palm and wrist placement is probably in front of the shoulders. They're not directly under the shoulders, and therefore there is pressure being exerted in an unnatural way, which is, if you have the palms directly under your shoulders, then your pressure goes right down through your hand. But if you are having it in front, then it's going to kind of affect your wrist. It's going to kind of affect your forearm in that position as well. So I think.
Again, Shane, can you quickly demonstrate that the difference of the two with the hands in front of the shoulder? So is it a side view that'll like show us better? Yeah.
So this is something that I've seen a lot of athletes do. Okay, where your palms are not really in front of your shoulders, and then when they go down, I can feel the pressure now on my wrist. I can feel the pressure now in this area, which I can understand now the athlete probably feels extensively if they are going into multiple reps. So if you have your palms directly under your shoulders, go down and up, so that then the pressure is traveling directly. It's going vertically as well, and there is no unnatural way in which the pressure is traveling.
Thank you, Shane. So now we have like instant feedback for your presentation. First things first, Mr. Shane, the presentation you did behind the lens of your camera was a culinary masterpiece. I would literally like to, I would literally like to fire you a question. I hope you would give a persistence comment on it. So here we go. Imagine if a person lacks himself with an unpredictable condition where you say either mental or physical, and deteriorate himself with that above mentioned condition for a persistent amount of time. What would be the best remedy for that under strength and conditioning?
Okay, Kasun, I kind of didn't catch you at different points because you kind of broke up.
I'll repeat it.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Imagine if a person lacks himself with an unpredictable condition where you either you say either mentally or physical. It's a mental or physical condition, and deteriorate himself with that above mentioned condition for a persistent amount of time. What would be the best remedy for the under strength and conditioning, for that under strength and conditioning?
Okay, I think as Coach Julian said, when you go back to the pool, don't try racing immediately, but get back into a steady rhythm. I think in this kind of circumstances, and if I'm reading the question right, I think it's a matter of just getting active before you can even look at looking at a strength program. I think like they say, each journey is kind of started with a single step. So you need to make that single step. You need to change your, I mean, if it is a physical or if it is a mental setback, then you kind of first need to resolve that, arrest that, and then kind of start progressing from there. And then of course, yes, it's just a matter of being patient with the process. I think I personally speaking, I've had several times where I've had injuries and I haven't been able to get back on track. I think Julian sir probably has seen me in those circumstances. It's very, very frustrating, but the thing is, at the end of the day, it's a case of mindset. It's a case of conditioning your mind. And Julian, please help me out here. It's a case of conditioning your mind and just being persistent and just moving forward from there. You don't necessarily have to run miles in the first day. You just need to walk 100 meters and just take it from there.
Shane, excellent. I think the one thing, what we all should consider about sport, and I think I have a chance of speaking on the last day, is for young kids and senior athletes, is to try and first of all make sure that you enjoy your training. When you start to enjoy your training, not that you go to the pool and have a party, but you go with, obviously you're part of a team and the coach has a program, you have to fit into the program. But the fact that we are enjoying this sport, that if you are doing, I think you don't need any, personally I think you don't need much motivation. The fact that if you're enjoying it, you will automatically start doing things that you feel you're comfortable with, and you will, like Shane, you said, take one step at a time. Don't try to jump many steps at one given time. Be very, very patient. In sport, they say to be I forget this number, but we'll bring it out tomorrow. To be a world-class athlete, there are a certain amount of meters they have to swim in a pool. Mind you, all of them started with that one length, jumping in the deep end for the first time. So everything is a step-by-step, but form, your technique, and I think I like what Shane said, everything is about technique, your exercises, because we do a lot of exercises, we do a lot of swimming, and a lot of us compromise on this. So yeah, if you get the technique right, then you can actually go a lot further with what you do.
Thank you, Shane and Sir Julian. So we'll move on to the last question. I think quite a few have asked different questions on this, but I think this will cover, maybe the answer will cover these questions. So the question is how these workouts will differ for different age ranges and what level?
Okay. Like I said, guys, Kasun, this is very much, a general kind of session, guys. So pardon me if it's, not really hitting the spot, but it is very much a general session. I'm sure your coaches are going to be much, more versed in, what exactly needs to be done. So I prefer to hand it over to the coaches, to the respective coaches, to discuss with the athletes, rather than commit to an answer just like this, in a general kind of forum.
Right. Thank you, Shane. Right. Yeah. So now we move on to our question. The question from the content of what Shane sir presented today. So we'll just go to it. Right. I think Shane sir mentioned this while he was talking about body posture, and so he mentioned it a few times as well. So he was talking about this body extension, a full body extension. So the question is this: what are the parts of the body that have to be in line for the full body extension? I will repeat. What are the parts of the body that have to be in line for the full body extension? So when you are actually coming up with the answers, please state your name and your parent's ID number and then your answer. I repeat, please state your name and your parent's ID number and then your answer. We will be choosing 3 winners, and the 3 winners will be announced tomorrow at the beginning of the session. So we will be choosing 3 winners, and we will be announcing the winners at tomorrow's session. Okay. So while you are typing that, I would like to thank everyone for joining us here today. Thank you, Shane, for joining us today. And as that comment said, for that culinary masterpiece, right? And and I hope it was an enlightening session. Tomorrow we will have Mr. Shehan Dias speaking to us on long-term athlete development. I think it's a very important subject, and I think you should definitely get your parents joining for tomorrow's session, so they also can listen and understand. I think as athletes, it's very important that our parents also understand what sort of program we go through and what sort of problems we may have. So I think it's very important that parents join in tomorrow as well as maybe on Friday and on Sunday. So please tell your parents to join in for tomorrow's session along with you. I mean, it's for both of you, the parents and the children. So maybe you can all get together for just 1 hour of family time and you learn something new. And I can guarantee you, it will make your lives easier as swimmers when because of this undue parent pressure will be less, and they will also understand what you go through as swimmers. Right.
So pressure on me.
Yeah, it's pressure on Shehan. Yes, correct. So we'll see Shehan tomorrow, and I think hopefully I will give another maybe a minute or 2 before I end the session for you all to answer the questions. The question which has been put up on the screen, and I would like to invite everyone to log in by 6:50 tomorrow, so we can start the session at 7 o'clock. So thank you very much for being here. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.